is the true crime case of killer parents that believed their 3 small children were possessed. In order to drive out demons, decapitated them. So you know what is coming, a content warning. This is a gory case that involves children. Viewer discretion is advised. If you made it this far, my name is Holly, and this is the Murder She Shed, the place we talk about the dead right from my she shed. Before we start, make sure you hit that like and subscribe for more rarely heard true crime cases. If you are tired of repeat crime cases from other channels, then check me out. You might like me. This crime case was suggested by one of my amazing subscribers. If you'd like to stay and watch the bloopers at the end of my video, you might need them after this horrible case. John Allen Rubio had an extremely difficult childhood. Not only were his parents either abusive and absent, but his mother was using drugs since he was very young. She was at one point encouraging him to work as a prostitute. His other siblings had to help him get ready for school and feed him. He was surrounded by chaos and didn't really have someone in his home life that he could depend on. John's grandmother was believed by some members in her family to be a bruja or witch that practiced witchcraft. And before the grandmother passed away, one of John's brothers discovered a shrine in the grandmother's closet. In his teens, John started hearing voices. One of them was his dead grandmother. He often would tell his family that God and his grandmother told him he was the chosen one, and that the world was coming to an end. He said his dead grandmother would say to him to finish what she had started. John became a prostitute at a young age and was bisexual. He often abused inhalants such as spray paint. Although when John was young, he had a normal IQ, all the drugs decreased it significantly. His male lover's name was Jose Moreno, who would say that John often didn't make sense and would go into seizure-like state where he seemed to go blank at times. John met Angela Camacho in 2001. After seeing her husband beat her, they began growing close to each other. Angela already had a daughter when she met John. The little girl's name was Julissa, and she was pregnant with her second child. The second child was a boy, and she named him John after her new boyfriend, but he was not the daddy. I will call him John Jr. just for the purpose of not getting them confused. They all moved in with John's mom and brothers. After that arrangement did not work out, they ended up on the streets for a while until they found a house, but it had no running water or electricity. While they were living at this house, John asked Angela what she would do if he killed the children. Angela said nothing because she just thought he was joking. The 2 children were removed from the house and placed in the custody of Angela's mother. Angela was pregnant for the 3rd time when this occurred. The children were underweight when removed. In order to get them back, John and Angela were required to take parenting classes, pass drug tests, find adequate housing, and John needed to obtain employment. So in the fall of 2002, they completed all the requirements and the children were given back to them. They went back to sharing an apartment with John's mom, plus 2 other men now lived all together in that house, or apartment, I guess. John's mother was a prostitute and a drug addict and often bought drugs instead of paying her part of the rent. By January of 2003, John had already lost his job and went back to heavily abusing drugs with the help of his lover, Jose, whom would buy him the spray cans to huff. By this time, Angela had gave birth to her 3rd child, and they named her Mary. Angela was upset that John continued to use inhalants and that he was still having an affair with Jose. since by this time she was his common law wife. According to Texas law, if two adults agree to be married, live together, and you tell others that you're married, then you're married. And length of time you live together does not matter, even if you've only lived together just one day. There's something I wondered about after seeing they were married. If you know that that's different, you can leave a comment. Let me know. Angela threatened to leave him if he didn't quit the affair. John and Angela's marriage and life were under a great deal of stress. They were worried that they might get evicted, so John started prostituting and washing cars for money. Jose was giving John some money and groceries. They were able to walk to a charity for meals and showers. Then they received a notice informing them that Julissa's food stamp benefits would be terminated because of a problem with her social security number. On the day before the offense, the family went to the hospital to get a copy of Julissa's records. The hospital did not provide them with the records that they needed to correct the problem. At this time, Julissa was 3. John was 1 year and 2 months, and Mary was 2 months old. Sadly, they would die on March 11, 2003, and that would be the age they would be when they were buried. As the whole family was riding back to the apartment after they had left the hospital, John told Angela he seen a woman at the bus stop that had tried to steal his money, and then after that, a man had offered John Jr. a piece of candy. He told Angela the man was trying to poison their son. And then as they got off the bus, a woman with a dark mark on her forehead made a rude gesture at them, and John said that it was the devil's sign, in which Angela believed him. Because of Angela's low IQ, she believed most things John told her. She began crying, and they attempted to walk quickly home. After getting home, they believed Julissa, the oldest daughter, had been cursed. They rubbed an egg all over Julissa's body before they cracked it. An egg is used in witchcraft cleansing rituals. After rubbing the egg on an individual and cracking it, the different ways the egg looks after it's cracked can tell different things about an individual according to the belief. After cracking the egg, John and Angela decided someone had done something evil to Julissa. Around 2 a.m. the next morning, after having a rough night's sleep, because they had worried about Julissa, John heard his mother come in and told her that his rent money had been stolen, and asked his mom if she had her share of the rent, and she told him no. He also asked his mother, whom he believed was a witch, just like his grandmother, to help him fight off the evil spirits, but his mother did not want to help. She told John that he had the power and he was the one who would have to use it. She left the apartment around 3 a.m. So John decided he would do just that, and after his mother left, nailed the apartment shut to keep out spirits. After he returned to bed to get some sleep, as he lay there, he said he suddenly felt weird, as if something bad was going to happen. He began to hear strange, scary noises, and he saw mice running around on the floor, which he had never before seen in that house. He then heard his hamsters fighting with each other, which was also unusual. He kept 5 to 7 hamsters as pets in a cage near his bed. He described what he saw next as being like a movie or something he saw on TV. The hamsters would look at him with a nasty expression and then growl. He said this had happened only rarely before, and only when his mother or Lorena was at the house. Lorena was a transvestite prostitute that was a friend of John's. John then decided to kill the hamsters, which he did by spraying them with hairspray so they would choke. He brought the cage into the front room of the house. Some were still alive, so he put bleach on them and then took them out one at a time and smashed their heads with a hammer. He then flushed them down the toilet. Julissa awoke after hearing all the noise and came into the front room. John then stated she started to act strangely. He said she started growling at him and talking to him in a weird language. After asking her who she was, John stated that Julissa said that she was his dead grandmother. So the grandmother was inside of Julissa's body, and he said that Julissa said that her body was inside of little Mary's, 2-month-old Mary's. Hope that made sense. That was some crazy stuff. So basically, a bunch of body switchings was going on. Angela had gotten out of bed at this point. John went into the kitchen to make something to eat, but he started to feel woozy, so he went back into the front room. He then saw Julissa cutting the tape off of an electric outlet, which he had put over the outlet to prevent the children from hurting themselves. He said it appeared to him that Julissa was cutting the tape with a pair of scissors and then trying to give the scissors to John Jr. so that he could stick them in the outlet and electrocute himself. So he felt like Julissa was putting John Jr.'s life in danger. So he shook Julissa and blew in her face in an attempt to cast the grandmother out. He then put John back in his crib and began to choke Julissa. While he was choking her, Angela came in the room. He then asked Angela to help him get the evil spirit out of Julissa, and Angela agreed to assist him. So John asked Angela to go get a knife from the kitchen. Just another warning, it only gets rougher to listen to from here. After Angela returned with 2 knives, he repeatedly stabbed little Julissa in the chest while Angela was holding her feet and legs. But she turned away as Julissa was being stabbed. Julissa had cried and said, "Stop, Papa, please don't hurt me." John then turned Julissa over and stabbed her in the head, trying to remove her brain. When he could not accomplish this goal, he decided to just cut off her head. After removing this little 3-year-old girl's head, he then carried her body to the kitchen sink to wash it. After completing that task, he told Angela that Mary was next because she was possessed by Julissa's body. He then began choking Mary. After he said Mary revived and began to laugh, he then took the knife and decapitated her. He carried her body to the sink with Julissa's body and began to pour water down both of their throats in order to clean them out. After this, they put both girls' bodies in a trash sack. John then put both of the girls' heads in a bucket and told Angela to clean the floors, so she began wiping the blood up with Julissa's dress. John Jr. woke up and began to cry, so Angela went in to change his diaper. But John came in and told her that John Jr. must die too. Angela told him no and held John Jr. tightly, but John grabbed him from her and then took him in the kitchen and stabbed and decapitated him too. When Angela came in and seen John Jr., she then asked John to kill her too. John tried to choke Angela but was not strong enough. John then placed John Jr.'s body in a bed and his head in a trash sack. John then told Angela to have sex with him, saying that he was going to call his friends to come over and rape her, and then he would kill himself. They had sex and then took a shower together, and then they walked to the store and bought milk, came home and put it in the fridge. Then they began discussing whether to bury the bodies by John's grandmother's grave. While they were talking, John's brother, Jose, and one of Angela's friends entered the apartment. They walked into the bedroom where they seen John Jr.'s body on the bed with no head. They began to scream, and Jose asked John why he did this. They ran into the street where an officer happened to be coming down the street headed to another call. When they waved him down, hollering, "The child has no head," the officer was so confused as to what was going on. but he followed them into the apartment. He's a brave man, because if I heard that, I'm not going in that apartment. No way. He stated that what he seen would affect him for the rest of his life. He said when entering, there was a strong smell of chlorine. And as he walked into the bedroom, he saw a little boy that looked like a headless doll laying on the bed. Then he noticed the jagged mark around the neck and knew it was a real body. He then looked down and seen a bag by the side of the bed, opened it up and seen the sisters' bodies. The officer called for backup and then escorted everyone out of the house, where he searched John and Angela for weapons. Autopsy reports showed the children were stabbed and suffocated, and that Julissa had suffered more than 20 stab wounds, and another child had broken ribs and vertebrae. Their statement to police changed many times, including a time where Angela said that John didn't believe they were possessed, but they had killed their children because of money problems. Later, John was diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic, but one of his friends testified that John had told him once, if you murder someone, you could get off by playing like you were crazy. Angela was sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences with possibility of parole in 40 years because of her low IQ. John was sentenced to death, but as of March 2022, attorneys are trying to fight for life in prison due to his diagnosis of paranoid schizophrenia. In February 2022, a federal court revealed it would grant a stay on his case, thus allowing him to submit a new appeal to a Texas court. Well, guys, I know this was a truly horrible and gory case of 3 little innocent babies. You made it all the way through. So, go ahead and hit that subscribe button before you sign off. This was truly a wacky World Wednesday case. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I will see you for Suspense She Shed Sunday. I love you guys, and bye. He was surrounded by cows. Cows? What the heck's cows? He was surrounded by cows. He was surrounded by chaos. Why can't I say that? Chaos. He was surrounded by chaos. No, chaos. None of it sounds right. Chaos. In their grandmother's bedroom. Closet. The bedroom closet. The closet. Not just the bedroom. But all the drugs decreased it significantly. And then after a man had offered John Jr. a piece of candy. Kenny? What's Kenny? Kenny. She began trying. Dang it. Ways the egg looks after cracking can tell different things about the individual according to the belief. I have ducks and chickens, and what those eggs tell me when they crack is I left them in the shed too long and they've got rotten. It's the only thing eggs tell me. Maybe I'm just not special enough. I don't know. So John asked Angela, what's going on here? What is going on here? Hey, you know what I did a couple weeks ago? I was cleaning out one of my flower beds. This is crazy, but it's just like, I don't know what it is. Snakes love me. They just love me, and I just really don't agree with that. I don't love them, but they love me. I don't understand it. I clearly don't. But anyway, I was cleaning out my flower bed underneath these leaves that I was pulling out. I pulled them out, and when I did, I picked up that pygmy in my hand. I literally had a pygmy in my hand. And I looked down and I go, oh, that's not leaves. I mean, it was up here, guys. By my neck, close to my neck. Yes, for real. And I was like, that is not a leaf. And I just chunked it, threw it as hard as I could. It's just a miracle that sucker didn't bite me. I don't grab a pile of leaves with my bare hands anymore. I screamed. My husband came and saved me. He's used to this. He has to save me all the time. Very outdoorsy person. I'm always outdoors and I'm always getting into trouble. Just my life. Don't know what this has to do with anything, so let's move on. This is Simo. He's my baby boy. He always takes care of me and protects me, and he's a very tired boy because he ran twice on the four-wheeler today. That's a baby boy. Say, tell him bye, okay? Oh, gosh, dang. He told y'all right. Belched right in your face. I don't know if you picked that up on the microphone. That was lovely. All right, bye, guys. Love y'all.